In baseball, it really is, Michael. I think in a baseball player's career, the 3 days that get your attention more than any other, Game 1 of the World Series, obviously, an all-star game, but when you stand up for that national anthem today on opening day, if you're a first-timer like Nick Johnson or Jason Giambi, his first game in pinstripes, or even a veteran like Roger Clemens, there's something about opening day of the baseball season really gets the juices going.
Yes, indeed. And it is baseball season, and that man always got my juices going as I would watch Yankee game after Yankee game. And when he pitched, I was a Yankee fan. And when Jim Kaat would pitch, it was uh-oh. Joining us now is the one and only Jim Kaat, former Major League pitcher, 25 years, most of them with the Twins, of course. Pitched with the Yankees, Emmy award-winning sports broadcaster. I believe that was the premier broadcast of Yes, you and Michael Kay.
Probably was.
Yeah, the first broadcast. And, of course, a brand new book, If These Walls Could Talk. There it is on your screen. New York Yankees. Great to see you, sir.
Thank you for having me.
No, my pleasure. Big fan in every respect, and you belong in the Hall of Fame.
Well, thank you. It's kind of you.
You just came up short again. You needed 12 votes, and you got 10, if I'm not mistaken.
Right,
and you got another shot in a couple of years.
Two of my cousins didn't show up. So
Does it bother you though? I mean, because everybody tells you you belong in the Hall of Fame. They're not patronizing you. You do.
Well, so, I know the system. I know how it works, and.
Are you too outspoken? What's the deal?
No, I played too long. I've talked to guys that were on the committee. If my career had ended in '75, then that period, which I'm supposed to be judged on, 61 to 75, would have looked like much more of a dominant period.
More impressive numbers.
But being a left-hander that could get it over a little bit and wanted to play, I decided to play till I was 44, and I had fun doing it. But it kind of diluted my record. But hey. More important things in life, aren't there?
Yes, there are, and we'll talk about some of that in the next segment. But let's talk about the book. You take us behind the scenes of the Yankee broadcast that so many of us have been watching ever since that first broadcast, and watching them every day. It wasn't all fun and games.
Well, as anybody in the TV business knows, particularly when you're covering athletes and you were an athlete. They don't take criticism kindly, and I've never really considered myself, overly critical. But there are times that pop up. I had one with Alex. I had one with Jim Leyritz, Wade Boggs, mild stuff. One day they thought I was actually calling Andy Pettit's pitches and passing them on to the Angels. Chili Davis was watching a game in the clubhouse. Hear any kiddies giving them our pitches? So all of a sudden the next day, our producer, Leon Schweier, said, Joe Torre, I'd like to have you come in early today. So when I got there, he kind of laughed. Well, Rod Carew, who was the hitting coach for the Angels, was showing him with the baseball. He was showing Wally Joyner how Andy Pettitte gripped his pitches, and I was reporting what Rod said. Okay. They thought it was me.
Oh, boy.
And what was a nice warm moment is Joe Girardi, who went ballistic when he heard that I was doing that, actually called me down before the next night's game and apologized and said I was so wrong about that. So that was classy.
Yeah, and Rod Carew, of course, your ex-teammate with the Twins.
Yeah, so it's got a few stories like that, but most of them are, positive stuff about what a treat it was to cover that team. Ironically, when Derek started his career and Joe Torre and Zim, who had been a good friend for years, took over. So I was having the best seat in the house.
George Steinbrenner, you talk about how he screwed you on a contract.
Right.
Yet when your relationship with him as a broadcaster certainly was different than your relationship with him as a player.
It still puzzles me to this day. Twice. I did Yankee games with Scooter and Bill White. Bill White was really my broadcast mentor. He taught me a lot about the business in a very short time. And that job and then the job with MSG in '95, the last sentence was, well, we have to get George's approval.
Right.
And I had written this scathing editorial to Sports Illustrated because George appeared on Sports Illustrated in his
Napoleon.
Right.
Yeah.
And I said, where's Kirby Puckett, Ken Griffey Jr.?
Right. Why George Steinbrenner?
We got a convicted felon on the cover, But George.
He respected you for it.
Yeah, George. In fact, some of his executives would say, George doesn't like what you're saying. When I'd see George on the elevator.
Love you.
Yeah. So I ended up having a very warm as you could have with George, a nice civil relationship, and he was so kind. When he found out I was going to retire, he had me throw out the first pitch the next day, had a nice video tribute, so all ended well. But he was I could have written a whole book
I'm
just
sure,
on him.
I'm sure. You know, it reminded me, when I heard that story about you, when I saw it in the book, it reminded me of the Seinfeld episode when George is doing the opposite, and he meets Steinbrenner. You, sir, have ruined this Yankee team. You've disgraced the city. Hire this man. And I thought that's like Jim Kaat with the editorial. We have a lot more to talk about. It's all in the book, folks. Jim's going to stick around for another segment. If These Walls Could Talk. Jim Kaat's talking right now. The book will talk to you when you pick it up. And if you're going to be in Ridgewood later this evening, New Jersey, if you're in the area, Ridgewood Bookends, go check out and meet Jim Kaat. Get the book. We're coming back. Don't go away. All right, folks, we're back. I'm happy to say with Jim Kaat, author of If These Walls Could Talk, New York Yankees. And let me ask you this. You're doing broadcasting still. You're not with Yes, but you and Bob Costas do a bunch of games, right?
On the MLB Network,
yeah,
yes.
and you're doing Yankees-Mets. Yankees-Mets are playing this weekend.
Yes.
A-Rod is 2 home runs away from tying Willie Mays.
Right.
The Yankees have said they're not going to acknowledge it. They haven't acknowledged it in their press notes, nothing.
Yeah.
Plus, they have to pay him a bonus, which they may fight with an
They
arbitrator.
already are.
They are. Okay.
Yeah.
Should they recognize this? Should they not pay him? Should they go have this fight or not?
Well, the financial thing, I don't know. I mean, I see their reasoning because they would have been able to market the fact, but now Alex's market value is not what it was. Bob Costas and I discussed it, and I think we're going to handle it like any other home run and say he has just hit his 660th home run and he now ties Willie Mays for 4th
You will
place.
say that, yeah.
We will say
Sure.
that, and I think
you have to as a
and I think the
broadcaster.
Yankees will say that
Okay.
on the scoreboard. But unfortunately, if it were done under different circumstances, there would probably be a stoppage of play,
Sure.
a big celebration.
The commissioner would be there.
Yeah, the Yankees won't do that,
No.
and I don't think right now even Alex would want that. I think the reason he's come back quite nicely is, you know, we knew him when he was a bit self-centered, came off as insincere. Now I think he's grateful. He's more humble. He appreciates the game more, and I think he's a more relaxed player. And he's doing well, which is fine. You know, we all make mistakes, and we all deserve second and third and fourth chances, whatever it takes.
At $25 million a year,
Right.
We should all be so lucky.
Yeah.
All right, you are politically conservative.
Yes.
And proud of it.
Yeah, one of my top thrills is when Bob and I did Steven Strasburg's Owner. I got to have dinner with Charles Krauthammer and George Will. Of course, George I knew was a baseball fan, but Charles was a real baseball fan. And there's quite a group in Washington that have their little box down the right field line. Charles has, you know, special handicap, and I grew up in southwestern Michigan when Jerry Ford was my congressman. The flip side of that is I really got to be good friends with Hubert Humphrey, because Hubert was a Minnesotan, politician.
Yeah, no conservative, though,
No,
Democrat. Yeah.
he knew the 25th man on our roster, but yeah, I basically in southwestern Michigan have been a conservative Republican.
And you like Gerald Ford a lot.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
And you following the announced candidates, the unannounced candidates on the Republican side. So far, it's Rubio and Ryan, and Rubio and
Scott Walker.
So far announced is Rubio, Paul, and Cruz.
Yeah, and Bush will come along. You know what? Picking a candidate out of that is like we are now faced with 8 players, and you pick the top 4. So you got DiMaggio, Ruth, Gehrig, Mantle, Berra, Ford, Jeter, and who am I missing? How are you going to pick 4 out of that?
Yeah, and then you got to pick one.
Yeah, so now you have these guys, and you got to pick one. But you know, I hope they get together and not bicker, but just pick one. Who's got the best chance to win?
That's against,
and kind of turn things around.
You know, and God bless you. You're 74,
76,
and
yes.
You have a sister who's turning 90.
My sister's turning 90, and loves baseball, loves the Tigers.
Yeah. So our Tigers, I think last I looked, were losing to the Yankees again.
Yeah.
But so with Hillary running, should they be politically correct? Should they watch what they say because she's a woman? Because you know the media, just like they did with Obama, if you criticize him, you're a racist, even though it has nothing to do with race.
Right.
Now, if you take Hillary to task, you got to watch it. She's a woman. Does that have a place in politics or not?
You know, I got to be honest. I'm not smart enough to answer that question. I got enough trouble telling curveballs from sliders.
Back to baseball. Barry Bonds.
Yes.
He had his conviction for lying to the feds about the way he answered his steroid use question overturned. Anyway, if that holds up, if they don't appeal it, or if they do appeal it and the feds lose again, anyway, it doesn't mean he didn't do steroids, but he's just done. He can't get in the Hall of Fame, right?
Based on the recent voting, I don't think so.
All these guys.
Yeah, it's the eye test, which is the best thing. When you're in clubhouses every day and you see a guy that is kind of slender and lean and agile, and all of a sudden he turns into the Michelin Man. You say, "How's this happen?"
You look at the videos of when you played in the 70s and the 80s. These guys have these tight uniforms and they're skinny balinks.
The comparison I used to have is, you remember the Yankees had a utility infielder named Enrique Wilson.
Oh yeah.
He was the same size as Mickey Mantle. You think of Mickey as being, Mickey is like 5'11", 195.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you look at the Roy Whites, all these Yankees that I grew up with, Bobby Mitchell, Roy White, Horace Clarke, all these Jerry Kinney, all these guys were skinny as could be.
Yeah.
And nowadays, anyway. It has been an honor and a pleasure, sir.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much, folks. Let's get back to the reason, realistically, that Jim is here. I know he loves talking to me, but here it is, and he's a conservative. There it is on your screen. If these walls could talk, I love your analogy to the candidates with the Yankees and the players you named. That's great. And go see him at Ridgewood, New Jersey. Bookends if you can this evening if you're in the Ridgewood, New Jersey area. Richard Pearl's next. Don't go away. Thank you, sir.